I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
Sounds far-fetched? Well, that's exactly what we did, and it left a greater impact than you might think. This is the story of our mission to come in peace for all mankind.
In 1958, President Dwight Eisenhower signed the National Aeronautics and Space Act, which established the National Aeronautics Space Administration, also known as NASA. The ultimate goal of this new agency was to send a manned spacecraft to the moon. This initiative was the direct result of a space race between the United States and the former Soviet Union at a time when the two superpowers were involved in a period of hostile relations known as the Cold War. A year earlier, the Soviets had sent Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite, into orbit. Americans were shocked by the event, fearing that the United States was losing the Cold War. However, NASA responded. After President Dwight Eisenhower's approval, Project Mercury was officially launched, making it the first human spaceflight program. Despite an initial series of mistakes, Project Mercury eventually became popular with the public when it led to the success of Project Gemini and eventually the Apollo project. On July 16, 1969, the Big Three, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, cemented their legacies in history by manning the Apollo 11 spacecraft.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
Okay, we got a roll program.
It took them 3 days to reach the moon. And once they did, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong became the first men to walk on the moon's lunar surface.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
After this life-changing mission was complete on July 24th of 1969, the command module of Apollo 11 successfully splashed down in the Pacific Ocean, where the USS Hornet was able to intercept and pick up our heroes.
But we didn't stop there.
Between July of 1969 and December of 1972, 6 Apollo spacecrafts built by NASA landed on the moon, allowing 12 astronauts to explore the lunar surface.
Today, the lunar module Eagle is on permanent display at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. Although Apollo 11 was a milestone achievement in both scientific studies and technological advances, because it happened decades ago, some members of the younger generation may not understand how truly significant it was.
July of 1969, I was getting ready to be a freshman in high school, so I was very cognizant of the space race. Having come up during the time when the Russians had put things in space, we had done space, and now we were going to the moon. And there was a lot going on in America at that time, a lot going on internationally, and there was some, disjointedness in America, but the one thing that seemed to really bring us all together was the thought of going to the moon. I mean, it was considered, at that time, probably the greatest scientific feat of all time to actually be able to go to the moon. And I remember watching it on black and white television, and Walter Cronkite, the great newsman, was announcing it as it happened, and then seeing it live. It was truly one of the great moments of all time.
I was in second grade, and I knew something really important was happening, because my great-grandparents came over, my grandparents, my family, friends of my parents and friends of mine all came over. We, in the second grade, we just thought it was like a party. But everybody, I can remember them being so intense and watching it. They were just riveted to the TV. And in fact, my father had bought a color TV just to see this and all the commentary around it. It was just so exciting. And then I remember it getting just quiet as it could be when he got on the ladder and stepped down. And it was so important for America and so important for the world that someone got on the moon and that we got there first.
Many of the technologies that were developed for Apollo 11 eventually found their way into the consumer market, such as non-stick surfaces, dehydrated food, and small electronic components. However, despite the significance of Apollo 11 and the impact it had on American society, 6 to 20% of Americans believe that the Apollo moon landing was staged and that it took place on a movie set. It is simply believed to be because these people don't understand the science and technology and how exactly it works. However, it goes much deeper than that.
As a psychologist, I can tell you that people like conspiracy theories, and they like to think that they know more than the government or they know more than other people, and it's very interesting to a certain type of personality to go into that and to explore it and just think they have a lot of knowledge. But I know that they're from a telescope, you can see the debris on the moon that we left.
But no matter how you view Apollo 11, there is no denying that it was a truly monumental event in American history.
I've never felt so much excitement with all my family and friends and everything. The house was just jammed. Our house was just jammed with everybody. And I was really surprised, and I was so proud to be an American and proud to see our flag on the moon. It just was a very special thing, and now that I think back on it, I feel so privileged that I was alive to see it, because it was incredible.
When you think of all that was going on in America at the time, there were lots of things, both nationally and internationally, that were causing some divisions in America, causing some American people not to feel good about the country and all that. But landing on the moon, you know, John Kennedy started the whole thing when he said, we are going to go to the moon by the end of the decade, and we're going to make that commitment. And what that really showed, I think, to even the most cynical American at that time, is that if we worked hard, we put the resources, we put our academics into place, we put our science and engineering into place, and developed the technology, America could do anything.